welcome everyone to the April 4th Planning Board meeting. Today on the agenda, we have a review minutes from March 21st, review site visit minutes from March 28th, and a quick update on the recent Supreme Judicial Court ruling. And we have a public hearing for 14 South Street. The public hearing for 312 Old Stockbridge Road, we're not going to have an actual public hearing, but we're going to talk about it. So do I have, starting with the minutes, has anyone had a chance to review those?
Yes, I'll second the minutes.
Do we have a motion to?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll move to accept the minutes.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Great. Okay, the March 28th site visit minutes. Has everyone had a chance to look at those? Pretty brief.
I think so.
Yeah, I didn't print them. Do I have a motion? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So on March 7th, the Massachusetts Judicial Supreme Court ruled that this is sort of in regards to the tone of meetings and the topic of civility. And the Mass Municipal Association had been working on this report or, recommended approach to town meetings in terms of, the expectations for civility, and that has been taken off the table after this Supreme Court ruling that you cannot require that people be civil at meetings because that would run into a First Amendment issue. So we can, meetings can be run in a peaceful and orderly way, and there's definitely certain parameters that you can set. But in terms of content, anything, apparently, any language goes. Yeah, so with that, I had been given this script when I started as chair last year from Mike Canales that, included, we will be civil at these meetings, and that needs to be scratched. So that's taken off, and I can recommend it, I can encourage it, but we can't require it. So that's it. It's as simple as that.
It's going to be way more fun.
It's already fun. All right, so that's that. And you'll see that the little script for the public hearing that we do for 14 South Street is going to be slightly different. So, all right, any questions about that? Okay. All right, so then next we were going to have a public hearing for the old stone wall at 312 Old Stockbridge Road, but it turned out, I guess Nancy and Marie looked at the border and they found that the border for Stockbridge on Old Stockbridge Road goes back and forth between Lenox and Stockbridge. So it turns out at 312, that stone wall is actually in Lenox.
That's a good catch, Nancy.
Thank you.
I have, if anybody wants to,
I believe you.
my findings. Yeah.
I believe you. So, but Lenox is a neighbor, and this is certainly something that,
Oh my gosh.
this is certainly something that we can talk about as a board.
Yes, right.
And, and we can make a recommendation. I think in Lenox, it's the planning board, it's the zoning board of appeals that makes these decisions. So I'll just, open it up to anyone who wants to comment on that stone wall.
Well, I lived there for a number of years. And, you start with the fabulous wall of Elm Court, which has been patched up and taken care of and probably needs to be taken care of again. And this is a continuation of that. Mm-hmm. And it goes down the street for another mile. I tell you, I built the last little bit of it myself. But in a rather precarious way, but I think it's a little bit of a landmark and something that really, stands out for the character of that street. And I am actually wondering where in the bylaw is our scenic roads?
It's in the general bylaw, and
Okay.
it's on page,
Here,
hold
yeah.
on a second.
Do we need to discuss it?
Does it apply to us?
I don't know, I mean, it doesn't apply to us, no, because it's in Lennox.
Right.
Oh, we
So
just
we don't
determined
need
it was
to-
in Lennox.
Right.
Discuss it.
I don't know, I feel like actually, given what's going on there and the idea that they would dismantle it and sell the stone to somebody else, that, a recommendation or something, a note from us to Lennox would not be out of order.
Okay. How do others feel about that?
Well, I wonder, you've got a stone wall that's falling down, and we can't say to this person, you have to rebuild it. So you've got a stone wall that just continues to fall down. When we were there and they were looking at it, they didn't feel that this stone wall had been built at that time. It's been built more recently and not built well. So I would wonder historically when that part of that wall was done.
I don't know, 1900 or something,
Well, we don't know.
yeah. Just guessing.
So we can't force them to fix it up,
That's correct. Right.
and we can't force them to take it down. It sounds like we don't want them to take down. First of all, it's in Lennox. And I don't think it's our place to tell Lennox what to do with their stone wall. But here we are again. We're not gonna let them fix it up, and we're not gonna let them tear it down. It's ridiculous.
Well,
Yeah, I know it's not ours anyway.
I agree, we have
It's not
no-
ours anyway, but if it was ours, we'd be in the same situation where we're not gonna let them do what they want with their wall. And if they're not in charge of, so if they wanna let it sit there and look like that broken down stone wall, because we're not gonna let them take it down, it's ridiculous. It
And
just,
I think the amount of money it's going to cost to redo it is pretty phenomenal. When you think about it.
Well, and the amount of money that's going to take to remove it is even more.
Well, I think that's.
It's their choice.
The Botanical Center, I think, is taking.
I feel that is rather questionable. But anyway,
They were
they
there.
wanna spend the money to do it.
I don't know. And what are they going to do with it? And when are we going to, get plans for that?
They're turning it into an amphitheater. They were there at the site
It's
visit.
not-
Uh-huh.
Not ours.
That's not our.
And it's not ours, it's Lennox. That's,
okay, so, I feel I had questions about that comment that it was the wall, when you drive by, it does look different from the Elm Court wall, but it does also look to me like it's from the same period. And it's sort of, because it looks different, but it's also built in the same style where there's this kind of facade and then there's this inside. And so it looks to me like, and the wall just runs along the whole old Stockbridge Road in various different states of falling apart or not. And some people have just sort of piled the stones. So it looks, it looks nice. So I think there is something that could be done. But I guess, that to me, it seems unfortunate. I did check, to your question that you asked, does it set a precedent? I checked with town council and it does not set a precedent in terms of Elm Court. On the other hand, I think it would look kind of ridiculous if, if anyone was to make a recommendation that it was, okay to tear it down and then have a different standard for Elm Court. So, I guess the question here is, if there's maybe we'll do a straw poll and see how many of the board would like to make a recommendation to the Lennox ZBA. And if we don't have enough, then Carl, maybe, bring this to the Historic Preservation Commission. I mean, it does seem unfortunate to me.
I don't know that we have much purview in that situation at all, but I think that the only question is, given that this is in Lennox, sending a note to the relevant board in the town of Lennox that, Stockbridge feels that this is relevant and should be considered, I mean, I don't know that there's much more to say. I'm just looking
Gary?
here at this thing from,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, Mary Flynn put scenic roads in. Remember that.
Yeah, no, I remember the town meeting when it was done.
But the thing is that it is not our town.
No, it's true.
We've got that. And
Well,
also there was,
but we're not ruling, we're just
no, I
making a
understand
recommendation.
it. But, it's just like, somebody else telling you what to do. It's just kind of
It's a
weird.
recommendation.
Well, I know, but just, and also there was an email this morning from,
Pete Williams.
and they recommended not to tear it down. So perhaps they could send something.
Historic,
Right.
yeah.
And see if there's some, see if there's some kind of grant that would help them
Yeah.
put it back
And
together.
personally, I don't think that the stone wall looks anything like the other one,
Right, I
so
don't
I don't know. I mean,
Who's Pete Williams?
it's decidedly different.
Who's Pete Williams?
Pete Williams is on the
The
historic.
secretary of the Historic Preservation Commission, and he's also, I think, secretary of the Historic Commission.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Lives on the bowl.
Okay.
Peter Williams and that Stonehouse.
Yeah.
I think we let Lennox deal with what they need to deal with.
All right, so we've got Wayne, Liz, Gary.
We do have a comment.
And then,
I want to let the board, well, I'll get to you. I want to let the board have the conversation and then I'll take comments. Nancy,
I'm against talking to Lennox. I think it's not our purview, and I think the people that own it, we can't make them, Michael Canales said we couldn't make them fix it up, and if they're gonna just leave it to fall down, I think they should be able to do what they want with it, and I don't
That's
think we
been
should
falling
talk to
down for
Lennox.
years.
Nance,
I don't think we should tell Lennox what, even if we can suggest something to them, I don't think it's our business, frankly. I wouldn't want them coming and telling us because we border them.
it's not telling them what to do. It's a recommendation. It's very different.
I'm sorry, I know, but I wouldn't want them recommending what we do with our town.
What?
I mean, it might be, if you want to approach somebody, Carl, on your own,
I think it's reasonable,
but
Carl.
not as the board.
I mean, we don't have the votes on the board to do
Yeah.
something as a board.
Okay.
I agree with you. I think the boundary goes back and forth. We're neighbors.
It's
I
a
think
mess
it's-
over there.
I think it's reasonable to make a recommendation. It's a historic,
Well, as long as it's not from this
From the whole
board.
board.
If you're doing it individually, but not from the board.
Right.
All right, well, I don't know. I need to familiarize myself with the Lennox Planning Board members,
ZBA.
It's only,
ZBA.
zoning board, yeah, but,
Want the maps, Carl?
but I'll reach out personally. Yeah, thank you
Okay,
so much.
all right. Okay, could you come up to the podium and introduce yourself, please? And your address?
Is there a microphone?
No.
Not either. No.
just speak loud.
I'm Mark Mendel. I live in Sheffield. I have a masonry business, been around 50 years or something, but only probably 43 years in the Berkshires. Anyway, I wanted to come by. I got a note from the client who owns the wall. It's a client of mine. I met her. They had some chimney problems. It was pretty treacherous, but fixed it up with a little love. The chimney's good. And then she said, you know, can you get rid of this wall? She said, it's falling apart. I don't have the money to rebuild it. And could you find somebody that wants it and get rid of the wall and just plant some seeds? She wants a lawn there. She and her husband, they live down in Florida in the wintertime. I don't think they're going to be back here till May, you know. So that's kind of how I got into it. And we do a lot of historic stuff, of restoration. I mean, a lot of it. I'm very familiar with it. You know,
You certainly
we
have.
built the front of Hotchkiss up there, Hotchkiss School, and we've done all kinds of stuff, the National Register, whatever houses. So I'm kind of a restoration person. But, you know, she just says she doesn't have the money to fix it, you know, because it is in rough shape. It's falling apart. If it ends up that I'll be involved if it does get sold, I guess. But it's not my decision to make. But the lady's name is Nair, I don't know how to pronounce it. Nair, N-A-I-R, Nair Revilla, 312 Old Stockbridge Road. If you have any questions about the masonry, if you have any questions about the stone, I will say that it's all black now, you notice that? And that it was white marble from Lee. But until about 1963, cars and trucks didn't have any pollution stuff on it, you know? And it's just shocking to see how much crud was in the air to blacken every wall in Lenox and everywhere else. But I don't have a, you know, I just wanted to come in to answer any questions if you have about masonry or about that particular wall.
Thank you, Mark. Does anyone have a question for Mark?
Looking at that wall, when would you say it was built?
It was built, I think, around, we did a little research on it, I think around 1919. The house next door, the Elm Court, it took a long time to build that house. And Olmsted was connected to Elm Court, and he actually had a bedroom there, I noticed. I was over there. And he passed away, I think, 1919, somewhere around there, he passed away. However, that's not unusual because imagine all the drawings to build a house there, that huge amount of drawings, a huge amount of time. So even though he might have passed away, he had already done the design for the wall and it's what they built.
Thank you.
I don't know exactly, you know, but.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? No?
Any
Okay,
questions?
thanks very much.
Appreciate it.
I mean, it's not, again, like, you know, as Marie said, it's not our purview, you know, I mean, but, you know, I think a word to the wise about tearing down, you know, part of an Olmsted landscape
Yeah.
would not be advisable.
Well, Carl, I think the historic, I get the two committees' names.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
No. Well,
Yeah.
we're in close communication.
Yeah.
So,
And if you're writing something, I'd be happy to sign too.
Sure.
Okay, all right.
Well,
Okay.
if you guys come up with a determination of what you want to do here, she would like to know, so if somebody calls me or something, and I'll call her.
We're not going to do anything here at the board level. We're just, you know, we're not going to do anything at the planning board level.
It's because it's.
Well, and Mark, it's pretty fancy that you're involved.
Pardon?
I said it's pretty fancy that you're involved.
And I'm involved?
Yeah.
Yes, no, I think so. I mean, you know what you're doing.
I'm in the stone world.
I know.
Okay, great. All right, well, thank you. I think we're all set.
Okay, I mean, I can give you a card or something, but,
Thank you for
give you
coming.
my phone number, but.
Thank you.
She would like to know,
Yeah, she's going to have to go to the resident's going to have to go to Lennox.
Mike our town administrator has been in touch with the applicants to let them know that
Okay.
the line is in Lennox and that they'll need to go to Lennox. And I think there's even going to be a refund for the application. So,
okay, well, I'm just here if I can answer any questions or anything.
Well, thank you for
Much
offering.
appreciated.
Yes, very
Thank you
Okay.
for offering this because we didn't know much about it. So thanks a lot for coming.
Okay.
all right, great. So, okay, next we have a public hearing, and this is where the slightly, slightly different script.
This is up to date.
Slightly different script comes into place. Okay, so this is for 14 South Street. So next time Wayne's cameo is back in, since Donna has rewritten this, so, but I'll do it for today, so he knows what he's going to be reading. So today we have a special permit application for 14 South Street from applicants Rachel and Samuel Childers. And they are looking to make an accessory use out of a barn that is on their property. And we are starting the public hearing at 8:07. All right, so the following
7:07?
procedures.
8:07.
8:07.
Oh, 8:07.
Yeah, the following procedures will be followed. Testimony will be limited to the issues directly related to the subject matter. Only one person will be permitted to speak at a time. All discussion will go through the chair and in voices that are clearly audible to all meeting attendees. No side conversations, inaudible side conversations at the board level. Civility is encouraged. Arguments between parties will not be permitted. Okay, so here today we have with us Bob Fournier from SK Design, and he is going to present the project.
I have a few handouts, if you don't mind, and this is just a smaller, easier to read version of what I have. The colors didn't help. Thank you.
Challenging.
I have a big map too, if anyone wants.
So, Bob Fournier with SK Design Group, I'm here representing the applicant Samuel and Rachel Childers for property at 14 South Street in Stockbridge, property just south of Cherry Hill Road. This is an application to convert an existing barn on the property into an existing residential dwelling, which is permitted only by special permit in accordance with your bylaws. The property itself is located in the R4 zoning district. It contains 513 feet of frontage and it's about 31 acres in size. The plan that I show that you have there is just a small enlargement of the larger property. In other words, the property lines are here, and here, go way down off the drawing. About 2/3 of the property is actually wetland associated with, I think it's Agawam wetlands.
That's what it's called.
There is an existing 1,200 square foot house currently on the property that is occupied in this area. And there's a 700 square foot approximate barn located directly adjacent to it. The barn is the subject of this application. There's also wetlands and floodplain associated with this site, and we consequently have applied to the Conservation Commission for work in those jurisdictional areas. I believe we are meeting with them next week, although I don't think that's been confirmed. So within this application, I have a lot of graphics, including a set of architectural plans that were done by Arthur Schwartz, he's a local architect. He had actually, as I understand, had submitted them to the building inspector for a building permit and was turned back. And told that he needed to come before this board before he could issue any kind of building permit. So that's where we are. We are seeking the special permit, and I can get into some of the details on the structure itself. I don't know if you can even see it from back there.
Yeah. I can see it here.
The back, it's like a walkout barn, if you would. And on the back side, they want to do a 10-foot wide, full-length porch that would be on the first floor level. And then in the front, just putting a stoop on there with a sidewalk going out to the driveway. There's no other changes being made at all to the footprint. And it's certainly not habitable right now, so they're doing a lot of other stuff. It's windows, roofing, insulation, heating system, electrical, everything.
Plumbing.
Is it a barn? Yeah.
It's an open.
So it needs a lot of work. Then we did a little analysis on the zoning, on how this complies. For instance, in this particular zone, the minimum lot area is required to be 174,000 square feet. So this is 1.3 million square feet. Requires a minimum frontage of 300 feet. This property has 513 feet of frontage. So it meets all the dimensional requirements of the zoning that would permit this project to continue. Then we get into some special permit findings. I'm being a little presumptuous, but I believe that the board is required to go through these towards the end to iterate your approval of the application or not. It speaks to whether the use will be detrimental to the character of the neighborhood, for instance, or cause undue traffic congestion. So we've answered all those questions for you. Most of them are very straightforward. A few other things, sewer. So this property is tied into there's a gravity sewer located out Box Meadow Drive. The house is tied into that, and this new structure will as well. There's a private well, potable water that services the house that will also service the barn. Stormwater, there's really no issues with stormwater. We did point out an area that we designated area as a staging area right here so that the contractors don't go awry and start stockpiling material down the embankment, if you would, near the wetlands. Of course, that will be reviewed again by the Conservation Commission. So we don't anticipate any stormwater or erosion control issues. It is completely out of the floodplain. We did run a detailed field topography. These contours that are shown on this drawing were derived from the USGS benchmark. So we're tied into the FEMA flood maps, and we've shown on the bottom of the drawing this is the 100-year flood elevation. So everything south of here, the whole rest of the property essentially is in floodplain. We are clearly up out of it. Therefore, I don't know if you have a floodplain special permit bylaw in town, but at the minimum, it's a conservation issue that we've addressed. So that's really it. I think the architectural plans are pretty self-explanatory. If they're not, I'm not really astute with them, but I could probably figure them out if you have any questions. So,
The architect designer is here.
there he is. Thank you.
All right, so at this point, unless you have more, Bob or Arthur, I will open it up to the board to ask any questions. Does anybody have any questions? Wayne?
There's no LPOD associated with this.
No, there isn't. It's like over 2,000 feet from Agawam Lake.
Okay.
Yep. And, yeah. So I have a question
thought
for
the-
you.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Carl.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I thought the site visit was instructive. You know, it seems like a perfectly reasonable project to me, but,
So Bob, I don't know if you're aware that Stockbridge is actually looking at a new accessory dwelling unit bylaw?
Just from what I've read.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
right. So I do have a few questions.
Sure.
It looks to me like you're okay in terms of the date, but when was this property built? Is this,
I did a little research on that. You can have this, the assessors,
because the reason I'm asking is that is because our bylaw specifies. Okay, we're good. Great, that's all set. And then the bylaw also speaks to, requires that 50% of all rental units, so that would just be, this is potentially a rental unit, so it would require that all 50% of all rental units so created be rented as affordable housing. And that definition is in our definitions, and it's sort of the state, I think it's based on the state requirement.
current definition.
Yep.
Okay.
Is that something that you're aware of?
Yes,
Okay,
we did look at that when we originally,
just make sure,
is this,
zoning.
but is this more than one unit? I mean, it's not that big a structure.
it's one unit, but it would be required because 50% of the way it works is that,
I see.
because it's one unit, yeah. So, just make sure you're aware of that definition.
Yeah, and maybe it would behoove you, if you would, make it a condition of your approval, just so that.
It doesn't, because it's, it's a requirement of the bylaw. I mean, I guess we could make it a condition, but I'm just making you aware that the bylaw that's being proposed would not have that requirement. So just something to think about,
Where does that go in a town vote in the spring?
it's
Maybe.
maybe,
Maybe
Yeah.
next year.
So
maybe in the fall, maybe in the fall,
Hey,
yeah.
Maybe Arthur could speak to what the,
Is there,
Arthur, can you come up and introduce yourself, please?
God.
Arthur Schwartz, 22 Main Street. I'm the architectural designer for this project. My question would be, does that proposed ordinance that you're referring to where with the 50% affordable housing, is there a minimum number of units for a project for that to kick in?
Let's see.
That's what I thought too, Arthur.
If you had.
So basically, yeah, there is. Let me find the definition. Hold on.
The proposed is 9.
9 and 9.
Can't have each individual be affordable.
There are only 2 units.
So it falls under B and B1. So to be regarded as affordable units must meet the following criteria. Rental units must be first offered to low, moderate income individuals selected from a waiting list maintained by the Stockbridge Housing Authority. Rents charged cannot exceed 100% of the current fair market rents for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, Section 8, rental certificate and voucher program. And in my bylaw, it's on page 6.
Isn't
But
that
that's
for
only
development?
For
No.
Yeah.
units 9 and above. That's,
Yeah, that's
not for individual
Right,
units.
this is not at all. It's,
Where requirements have been eased by the provision of affordable housing, the following requirements must be met. And then if you look at this, it says that 50% of all rental units so created be rented as affordable housing, see definitions, sections 2.2. So to me, it looks like, and town council did look at this and she did say that this would apply.
But I think that was for only 9 units and above, because you wouldn't do that on each individual unit. You would have to make it affordable.
No, I'll read you what I have from town council. Okay, the accessory structure existed, so that section allows conversion by special permit, and this is 4.11.8.4.4, of an accessory structure into one or more dwelling units by special permit of the planning board if and only if the following conditions are met. One, the accessory structure existed before January 1st, 1990, so you're good there. The minimum livable area is 300 square feet for one unit, you're fine there. The minimal area of the lot conforms to the requirements under A2, which in this case is 5 acres, you're more than fine there. Alterations do not increase the size of the pre-existing structure by more than 20%. I wasn't quite so sure about that point. And then half of all rental units so created be rented as affordable housing. So it's, that would apply.
How do you do that with a single unit? Half of all housing created. You have one unit.
It's an interesting
It's
question.
ridiculous. It can't be. It just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
If you're gonna make
That's,
half of one unit, that doesn't jive. Don't think that's what that refers to.
It doesn't
Maybe
seem
that's
like
not the intent.
the intent.
It's written
Yes.
properly.
that was when you had a whole development.
I
Yes,
think it's.
Right, it was for development.
development.
Number of units over 9, I think, was the
Yes.
proposed.
And then you had to put in
idea.
one unit.
I
yes.
thought.
Well, that sounds perfectly reasonable, but where is it written down? Is it at all?
And, well, it's not the
Not
law
yet.
yet. It's
This is
what
the
it's
old
still
one.
a discussion.
Oh, I
We're dealing
see.
with what we
We have
have.
the bylaw.
Yeah.
Let's deal with what we have now.
Yeah,
Yes,
we have to.
it doesn't matter what's going to happen.
Okay, so you guys, it sounds like you guys want to just, what town council is recommending is not what you want to go with. So, any other questions from the board?
Well, I think for clarification, that was a proposal, a potential proposal that we just discussed. What is there now and what they're asking for is doable, correct?
Yes.
Because the language right now allows them to do what they're asking for.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
I
think they've checked all the boxes,
Multifamily
all
development.
the permit. Seems like it.
Right, I think
Fulfill
what Kate
their
is trying to say
obligation.
though is that if they go and rent it and they don't use it as for their guests, they could potentially run afoul of the ADU
But we don't
that's in
have it
place
yet.
right now.
how?
Why can't they rent it
just
to
read
their
it.
family?
But I don't understand how they run afoul with what we have right now.
Or even with what we're proposing?
Well, no, it can't
But
be
the
what
one
we're
we're proposing
proposing. It can only be
done yet,
what
so-
it
Yeah,
says.
no, it's
They gotta
gotta be
go on
what-
what's
what's on the
happening
books
now.
right now. But what do you mean, Gary? I don't follow.
Well, from what, Kate just said,
That doesn't,
that is what we have now. So as long as they're going to use it as a guest house, it's fine. If they want to use it as a rental unit,
Exactly.
then they're going to have to comply with what's in the bylaw for ADUs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'd recommend that you use it as a guest house.
Yeah, that's my understanding, and that's what it shows in my
So,
email.
I mean, as long as they're going to do that, that's fine.
that-
And if they want to do more,
Friends and family.
then.
If you use it as a guest house, Bob,
Yeah,
and then, see what you get with the proposed, the ADU bylaw that is in the works,
yeah.
That's
exactly what they
Yeah.
plan on doing with it now. It's gonna be three-season rental, not a rental, but guest house.
Yeah.
For family and friends.
Yeah, so that's fine.
Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions from the board? Okay, let me just check the audience to see if we've got anybody here.
so Mrs. Childers is on.
The owner is on it.
So anybody on Zoom who wishes to speak in favor, please state your name and your address. Come on, the applicant, don't you want to speak in favor?
Oh, there she is.
Yes.
Hi, yes, we are in favor.
Yes, please.
Please.
Okay, did you want to elaborate or expound or?
No, we found the discussion actually really interesting. I'm a member of the BSO, so, we're very familiar with coming out to the Berkshires, and we are of course interested in having space for all of our people to come visit, so. That's
Perfect.
primary.
Okay, great. Okay, great. What instrument do you play?
French horn.
Oh, nice. All right. Do we have anyone here who wishes to speak in opposition? Please say your name and your address and let us know your thoughts. Okay, I think we are all set. All right, now I got to check my cheat sheet because here's where it's a little bit different. Okay, all right, so next up, the board has asked questions. Is there anything else you want to talk about with regards to this request? Okay, does somebody want to make a motion?
I'll move that we approve this.
Oh, we have to close.
No, we don't. We don't actually have to do that. Although I do have one request, Bob, which reminds me, one condition. And this is from something our building inspector has recommended. Would you be willing to give us an as-built plan that shows that the project is built as, to what has been presented here today?
Building inspector requested that.
Well, he suggested it.
He suggested.
Yeah, yeah. So when it's done, just an as-built plan that shows that the project has been built to what's presented here today.
Yeah, I don't see why
Is that
not.
the site work or the construction is good?
No.
No construction as well,
Not for the inside, but for the, for the
for the site work.
site work, yeah.
Yeah.
The project, the footprint,
Sure.
the dimensions of the,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that wouldn't be too difficult to do.
Okay, and you're not going,
Footprint's not changing,
Right,
maybe
right.
measure the porch or something.
right.
Yeah.
And are you going over, we have a 35-foot height limit? So-
No, I looked at that, I think it's like 25.
Okay, good.
27 at most.
All right, so the only condition I would add is that, we'll have an as-built plan to show that this is
Okay.
as proposed. So I'll make a motion that we condition this on, that a condition be an as-built plan that shows that the project is built as proposed. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, and then we had a motion to approve from Carl. Did we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, you're all set. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and then we need to, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. So, part of the new deal with this script that Donna reviewed is that before, what I had from Mike was that we couldn't discuss the project until the evidentiary part was closed, which meant it was really awkward. Like if you had a question,
Right.
you were kind of, so we've gotten rid of that whole part, which makes it a lot, it's just much more natural and a much more sort of much easier process. Yeah. I was finding it incredibly awkward and this definitely helps. Okay, so I think that,
Can I just ask a question?
yeah,
Like, when we get to, the board gets to talk and make comments on something. And then you asked us for, well, I'm thinking of that stone wall thing. But we all got a chance to talk and then you kind of asked us for a straw poll, what we felt about it. And then you took the guy from the audience. I mean.
which are you talking about?
The stone wall.
Oh, the stone wall, okay.
Or any decision like that, but we all had our comments to the board, I get that. And then you kind of asked us for a straw poll and what we thought before you asked for Mr. Mandel's comments, which might have helped us to make a decision. Is that how it's supposed to go? Or should you take comments from the audience, which might help us make a decision before?
That was just, that was.
I mean, I know that wasn't a big, full decision, but in the future, should we listen to everybody before we make decisions?
So that was, at that point in the discussion, that was just, my call as a chair. That was
Right.
chair's discretion. I was really interested to hear, I didn't want to interrupt the existing discussion because I was really interested to hear it. And I wanted to sort of see how people reacted to whatever, I don't remember, whatever was being said. So that was just, a discretionary call on my
Normally,
part.
we should listen to all comments and then kind of make a decision. Is that right? I mean, does that make sense?
I mean, I'm not going to, commit to, I just kind of want to have it be relaxed and play it by ear. And if there's a conversation that I want to, hear through, I'll probably go with that.
But
I understand your point.
Yeah.
I do,
mean,
but
we
I
heard
think.
him and he had some really interesting
Right,
comments.
but what
It
we.
would have helped us.
Well, except we already knew that we weren't going to make
That
a
was
decision
easy.
on anything because this was very different.
That was an easy
This is-
one,
this
but
is
in
the
general.
It's not a
Right,
hard
right.
task.
I mean, the reason I wanted to
But I
go
think
with
in a
the,
different scenario, yes.
Yeah.
the reason I wanted to go with the straw poll was because my sense early on was that unfortunately, Carl did not have the votes, to have a recommendation come from the planning board. So if that's the case, and I personally, and this is just sort of a judgment call you make, as I know this board, I didn't see those votes changing. So, at a certain point, if you know that the board is going in a certain direction, then, I'm probably going to.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't think I want to predispose anybody to their opinion before we discuss it, but to what you said about process, remember, and to your point about discussing within a special permit, we had to close it and then we had to get things presented, close it, and then have discussion. We no longer have to do that?
Nope.
Well, that's good.
It is.
Because, but then to Marie's point, then let's listen to everybody.
Well, I do listen to everybody,
And
but, as a chair,
You have a little bit of you sometimes cut people a little bit. So I would just be conscious of that. And I'm glad that we can have those opinions or at least explanations out there. It may be helpful for us.
yeah.
Yeah, if the wall was in our court, then that would have been a nice comment for him.
Right, that it was a different scenario.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, totally different.
Okay, so Marie, you had wanted to talk about Sheffield.
Yeah, I just, this week we went down to a exhibit at the library in Sheffield. And it's an exhibit it's a traveling exhibit from the Smithsonian Institute, and it's
Smithsonian.
called Crossroads.
Yes.
And it's a great exhibit. It's the history of rural, small towns in our country. And it's not just New England, it's like all over, but it's very interesting how similar the history of rural and what has happened to rural communities over the years. And there were some very thoughtful questions. I took there were some postcards that you could answer these questions, but I took them and Xeroxed them for you because I thought they were just really interesting. And I would encourage anybody, it's there all month, but it was very well done and didn't advocate for anything. It was just, this Band-Aid is making me
Can we
laugh.
help you?
Yeah, it's in the cellar and it takes, an hour or something to get down there, but the Sheffield Library is really a neat spot. And this was a well-done exhibit. And it just showed different ways communities were now dealing with what happens, changes in rural life and suggestions of what, might be happening and thinking about the future of what is going to happen to rural communities. So it was just good. And these were just sort of interesting questions I thought for us to think, not us as a board, but for any of us to just kind of think about.
Looks interesting.
It was a very good exhibit. It's free, it's just whenever the library's open.
And it's supposed to be a beautiful library, so.
Yeah,
Is
it
that
is a
right?
nice library.
And that's right on Main Street?
Yes, it's off a little bit. It's on the left going down Main Street, down at the bottom of the street.
And
like-
it's the Smithsonian. It
It's a
counts.
Smithsonian
Yeah,
exhibit.
yeah.
So they've done a very nice job, and there's interactive exhibits and you can lift a little door and read excellent photography but I just thought these were really interesting questions,
Nice.
So anyway, that's my pitch.
Thank you. This was great.
Okay, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thanks for this. This is nice. No, I gotta get down there.
Yeah, it's really worth